Park was covered in grease when the message arrived. She was lying under an old transport shuttle, trying to fix a fuel line that had cracked for the third time this month. The shipyard where she worked was dying. Everyone knew it. The big contracts went to alien companies now, and human mechanics like her were left with scraps. Her tablet beeped with an urgent notification. Ignored it at first. Probably another bill collector. But the beeping continued, and finally she rolled out from under the shuttle to check. The message was from the Galactic Inheritance Court. Read it twice because she did not understand it the first time. Her uncle had died. He had left her something in his will. Uncle was not really her uncle. He was a tall alien with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. He had married her Aunt Jin 20 years ago when was just a child. The family had been shocked at first. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 40 years, and mixed marriages were still rare. But Uncle was kind and funny, and eventually everyone loved him. Had not seen him in 5 years. He traveled constantly, running cargo across the galaxy in his old ship. She felt sad that he was gone. She felt even more confused about why he had left her anything. The inheritance was a ship. The Wandering Leaf, his cargo vessel, according to the documents, needed to travel to Station Morrow to claim it. She called her mother that night. Her mother already knew about the inheritance. Everyone else refused it, her mother said. Your aunt, your cousins, everyone. The ship is worthless, it does not even work anymore. If you accept it, you have to pay for disposal. It will cost you more money than you have. Why would Uncle leave me a broken ship? He was always strange about that ship. He loved it more than anything. Maybe he just could not stand the idea of it being destroyed. Her mother paused. Do not accept it, let it go. But could not stop thinking about it. She remembered visiting Uncle's ship as a child. She remembered the strange symbols on the walls and the way the engines hummed like a living creature. Uncle had called the ship his oldest friend. The next morning, used her savings to buy a ticket to Station Morrow. The station was enormous, had never been off Earth before, and she felt small and lost among the crowds of aliens. There were like Uncle and insect-like, and dozens of other species she did not recognize. Humans were rare here. A few looked at her with curiosity. Most ignored her completely. The inheritance office was in the lower levels of the station. A board clerk processed her documents and handed her a data chip. Doc 47, the clerk said. The disposal fee is due in 60 days. If you cannot pay, the ship will be seized and scrapped. Do you understand? How much is the fee? The clerk told her, felt her stomach drop. It was more than she would earn in 10 years. Can I see the ship first? She asked. The clerk shrugged. It is your property now, do what you want. Dock 47 was in the oldest part of the station. The lights flickered, and the air smelled like rust and old metal. Walked past rows of abandoned ships until she found the Wandering Leaf. It was bigger than she remembered. The hull was covered in dents and patches. One of the cargo bay doors hung open at a bad angle. Every window was dark. The ship looked dead. A group of workers nearby saw her approach. One of them laughed. That is yours, he asked. The human inherited the garbage ship. I wondered who would be foolish enough to claim it. Did not answer. She walked up the boarding ramp and stepped inside. The interior was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered on as she moved, casting red shadows on the walls. Everything was covered in dust. The main corridor stretched ahead of her, lined with doors that led to crew quarters and storage rooms. She found the bridge at the front of the ship. The captain's chair was worn and cracked. The control panels were dead, but on the main console a small light blinked green. Someone had left a message waiting. Touched the console. A hologram appeared above it. Uncle looked back at her, his 4 arms folded across his chest. Hello, little, the recording said. If you are watching this, then I am dead and you were brave enough to claim my ship. I knew you would be. You were always the curious one. felt tears in her eyes. She had not expected to hear his voice again. "Everyone thinks this ship is worthless," Uncle continued. "They see the damage and the age and they see nothing but scrap metal, but they are wrong. There is something special about this ship, something I never fully understood." The hologram flickered and changed, showing a diagram of the ship's interior. In the center of the ship there is a navigation core. It is original equipment, 200 years old. They used these cores in our early days of space travel. They let us navigate places where modern systems fail. Dead zones, we called them. Regions of space where no ship can fly today. Uncle's image returned. He looked serious now. The technology was lost. Everyone forgot how it worked, but this ship still has one. I spent years trying to understand it, but I am a merchant, not an engineer. You are different. You build things. You fix things. Maybe you can figure out what I never could. The recording started to fade. "I am sorry I could not give you something easier, little, but I believe in you. Make something wonderful from these old bones. Goodbye." The hologram disappeared, stood alone in the dark bridge, her heart beating fast. She took out her communicator and called Ho. He was her oldest friend, a mechanic she had known since childhood. He answered on the third ring, looking sleepy and confused. "Where are you? It is the middle of the night." "I am on station Morrow," she said. "I need your help, Ho. I inherited a ship." "A ship? What kind of ship?" Looked around at the dark bridge, the dead consoles, the dust and decay. She thought about Uncle's words. She thought about the navigation core that could go where no modern ship could go. "An impossible one," she said. "Can you come?" Ho was quiet for a moment, then he laughed. "You always find the strangest problems. Yes, I will come, but you owe me dinner." Smiled for the first time since she arrived. "Deal, hurry up, we have a lot of work to do." She ended the call and sat down in the captain's chair. The leather was cold and cracked, but it felt right somehow, like the ship had been waiting for her. Outside, the workers were still laughing about the garbage ship and the foolish human who claimed it. They did not know what was hidden inside. They did not know what was planning. But soon, the whole galaxy would find out. Ho arrived 3 days later with 2 bags of tools and a case of instant noodles. He stood at the bottom of the boarding ramp and stared up at the wandering leaf with his mouth open. "You are not joking," he said. "This thing is ancient." 200 years old, said. "Design, one of the oldest cargo ships still in existence." "Still in existence" is generous. It looks like it died a long time ago. But Ho was already walking up the ramp, his eyes moving over the hull with professional interest. "The framework is solid, though. They built things to last back then." They spent the first week just exploring. The ship was larger than had realized. There were 3 cargo bays, crew quarters for 12 people, a medical room, an engineering section, and dozens of storage compartments. Everything was covered in dust and darkness. The damage was severe. They found 17 hull breaches, some patched badly and some not patched at all. The main engines were completely dead. The life support system worked at only 30%. The computer systems were so corrupted that most screens showed nothing but static. On the 5th day, an inspector named Ren arrived to assess the ship for scrap value. He was younger than Uncle had been, with pale blue skin and an impatient attitude. "This is a waste of everyone's time," Ren said as he walked through the corridors. "The ship is beyond repair. The disposal fee stands. You should just surrender it now and save yourself the trouble." "I want to see the navigation core first," said. Ren looked at her with surprise. "The navigation core? Why would you care about that? It is obsolete technology. No one has used navigation cores for over 100 years. "I want to see it anyway." The navigation core was in the exact center of the ship, protected by thick walls and heavy doors. Ren had to use his official credentials to open the final lock. The door slid open with a grinding sound. revealing a small room filled with strange equipment. The core itself was a sphere about 2 meters wide, covered in symbols that glowed faintly even without power. Felt something when she looked at it, a hum in her chest, like standing too close to a powerful engine. "What does it do exactly?" Ho asked. Ren shrugged. In the old days, used these cores to navigate regions of space where modern systems cannot function. Dead zones, we called them. Places where stars and gravity and radiation create interference that blinds all sensors. The cores used a different method. Older, more primitive, but effective. Why did you stop using them? Because we found ways around the dead zones. It was easier to go the long way than to maintain this old technology. Eventually, the knowledge was lost. No one remembers how to build them anymore. No one remembers how they even work. Touched the surface of the sphere. It was warm under her fingers. But this one still works. Probably, but what good is it? No one needs to enter dead zones. There is nothing in them worth finding. This is just a relic. Ren turned away. My assessment is complete. The ship has no value. I recommend immediate disposal. He left without saying goodbye. Stayed in the navigation room for a long time, staring at the glowing sphere. That night she called, was a programmer who owed a favor from years ago. She was brilliant with computers, especially old and corrupted systems. "You want me to decode 200-year-old programming language," said. "That is insane. I love it. Send me the data." Spent the next 3 weeks sending everything she could pull from the ship's computers. Meanwhile, she and Ho began the impossible task of understanding the damage. They made lists, long, terrible lists. Every hull breach needed repair. Every engine component needed replacement. The electrical systems needed complete rewiring. The life support needed new filters, new pumps, new everything. "Even if we sold everything we own," Ho said one night, "we could not afford half of these repairs. Parts are expensive and rare. Some of this stuff probably does not exist anymore." Stared at the lists. She thought about Uncle's message. He had believed in her. He had said she could make something wonderful from these old bones. "What if we do not use parts?" she said slowly. Ho looked at her. "What do you mean?" "The framework is solid. You said that yourself. What if we rebuild everything else using human methods, human parts, human engineering?" "That is not how it works. Alien ships use alien systems. You cannot just mix and match." "Why not?" Ho opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. He was a mechanic. He had spent his whole life being told that alien technology was better, more advanced, beyond human understanding. But he had also spent years fixing things that were supposed to be unfixable. "It would be crazy," he said finally. "No one has ever done anything like that." "Then we will be the first." Called them the next day with news. She had managed to decode part of the navigation core's programming. "It is beautiful," she said, her face glowing with excitement on the screen. "The math is completely different from anything we use today. It does not try to see through the dead zones. It feels through them, using gravity waves and something else I do not understand yet. But if this works, this ship could go places no modern vessel can reach." "Can you interface it with human systems?" Laughed. "That is impossible." She paused. "But maybe impossible is just a word. Let me think about it." Ended the call and looked at Ho. He was already pulling up salvage listings on his tablet. "If we are doing this," he said, "we need to be smart. There are scrapyards all over the station. Broken ships from a dozen different species. Parts that no one wants because they do not fit anything. Parts that might fit us." "Exactly," he grinned. "This is going to be a mess, a beautiful, impossible mess." They started the next morning. Ho found a set of human-made engines from a scrap transport ship. They were old and dented, but he swore he could make them work. Found hull plating from 3 different species that could be welded together to cover the breaches. None of it was supposed to fit. None of it was supposed to work together, but En Ho were human. They had grown up fixing things with tape and wire and stubbornness. They did not believe in impossible. Word began to spread through the station. A human had inherited a worthless ship and was trying to rebuild it. Most people laughed. Some were curious. A few watched from the shadows with very different intentions. One night found a message waiting on her tablet. It had no sender name, just 3 words. "We are watching." She deleted the message and went back to work. She did not have time for threats. She had a ship to build. The wandering leaf was still dark and broken, but somewhere in its ancient heart, the navigation core continued to glow, waiting for someone to wake it up, waiting for someone to show the galaxy what humans could do. Was going to make sure that happened, no matter what it took. 6 months passed. The wandering leaf was slowly coming back to life. Stood on the bridge and looked at the main console. Half of the screens were working now, showing system readings and power levels. The lights no longer flickered. The air smelled clean instead of dusty and old. It was not pretty. The repairs were visible everywhere. Patches of different metals welded together, cables running along walls because the original conduits were destroyed, human control panels bolted next to displays. The ship looked like it had been built from pieces of a dozen different puzzles. But it was working. Somehow, against all logic, it was working. Jinwoo Lee arrived on a Tuesday morning. He was a former Union shipwright, one of the best in the galaxy, until something happened that destroyed his career. Did not know the details. She only knew that he had seen pictures of her ship on the station network and had come to offer his help. "Everyone says this is impossible," Jinwoo said, walking through the corridors with wonder in his eyes. "They say human engineering cannot work with alien systems. They say you are wasting your time." "What do you say?" asked. Jinwoo ran his hand along a wall where human steel met alloy. The weld was ugly but strong. "I say they are afraid. If you succeed, it means everything they believe is wrong. It means humans are not just passengers in this galaxy. It means we can build our own future." He started working that same day. With his knowledge of Union shipbuilding standards, they made faster progress. Jinwoo knew shortcuts and tricks that saved them weeks of work. Boram arrived next. She was younger cousin, fresh out of university with a degree in business management. Her parents had sent her to convince to give up. Instead, she stayed to help. "Someone needs to manage the money," Boram said. "You 3 are brilliant, but you cannot even remember to eat. Let me handle the boring stuff." Boram took over finances and logistics. She found cheaper suppliers. She negotiated better deals. She kept track of every credit they spent and every credit they still needed. The number they needed was still terrifying, but it was smaller than before. One afternoon, an officer arrived at the dock. She wore the uniform of the Galactic Union military, with medals on her chest and authority in her eyes. Her name was Commander Sala. "I have been watching your project," Commander Sala said. "It is impressive, foolish but impressive." "Thank you," said carefully, "I think." Commander Sala walked around the ship, examining the hybrid construction with obvious interest. "Do you know why the dead zones exist?" The inspector said they are regions where interference blocks all navigation systems. "That is the official explanation. The truth is more complicated." Commander Sala stopped and looked at directly. "There are dozens of dead zones in this galaxy. Some of them are natural, but others were created deliberately, long ago, by species that wanted to hide something. Lost colonies, ancient technology, perhaps even the ruins of civilizations that came before." Felt her heart beat faster, "and no one can reach them." Not anymore. The knowledge was lost. Every species developed new navigation systems that worked everywhere except the dead zones. We simply went around them. Commander Sala glanced toward the interior of the ship. "But your ship has an old core, one of the last in existence. If you can make it work with your human systems, you could go where no modern ship can go. What are you offering? Funding in exchange for exclusive military contracts. Imagine what the Union could do with access to the dead zones, the resources, the knowledge, the strategic advantages. Thought about the offer. The money would solve all their problems. They could finish the ship in weeks instead of months. They could hire real crews and buy real parts. But she thought about Uncle too. He had spent his life as a merchant carrying cargo between stars, helping everyone he met. He had not been a military man. No, said. Commander Sala raised an eyebrow. No. I want this ship to help everyone, not just the military. If we can reach the dead zones, that knowledge should belong to the whole galaxy. Lost colonies deserve rescue. Ancient technology deserves study. I will not turn this into a weapon. Commander Sala was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled just slightly. I thought you would say that. You are stubborn like most humans. She turned to leave. Be careful, Park. Others will come with offers less polite than mine. When they realize what your ship can do, they will try to take it, by any means necessary. She left without another word. That night gathered her crew in the ship's common room. Ho, Jinwoo, and Boram. They sat on mismatched chairs around a table that came from 3 different species. Commander Sala was right, said. People are watching us. When they understand what the navigation corps can do, they will try to stop us. So what do we do? Ho asked. We work faster. We finish the ship before anyone can interfere. Boram pulled up her tablet with a worried expression. That is the problem. We are almost out of money. We have enough for maybe 3 more weeks of work. After that, we cannot buy anything else. The room went quiet. They had come so far. The ship was almost alive again, but almost was not enough. Spoke up. What if we find sponsors, people who believe in what we are doing? I can spread the word through the networks. There must be others who want to see this succeed. That is risky, Jinwoo said. The more people who know, the more attention we attract. We are already attracting attention, said. We might as well make it work for us. They agreed to try, began reaching out to contacts across the station and beyond. Boram started a public funding campaign, telling the story of the impossible ship and the human crew trying to rebuild it. The response surprised them all. Small donations came from humans across the galaxy. Messages of support arrived from other species who had been told they were too primitive, too young, too limited. A merchant sent parts from his own ship. An engineer sent technical documents. Not everyone was supportive. Some sent threats. Some laughed and called them fools, but enough believed, enough cared, enough wanted to see what humans could do. 3 weeks became 6 weeks. 6 weeks became 2 months. The wandering leaf grew stronger every day. Worked until her hands bled and her eyes burned. She slept in the captain's chair because her quarters were too far from the bridge. She dreamed about stars and dead zones and the sound of her uncle's voice. Make something wonderful, he had said, and she was trying, with every weld and every wire and every stubborn human refusal to give up. The ship was almost ready. They all could feel it, like a heart learning to beat again after a long silence. But Commander Sala's warning echoed in his mind. Others would come. Others were already watching, and they would not ask politely. The real fight was just beginning. The man who called himself director arrived without warning. He came with 2 bodyguards and a smile that never reached his eyes. He wore expensive clothes and spoke perfect Korean, though knew immediately that he had forgotten where he came from. Miss Park, director said, stepping onto the bridge like he owned it. I represent the Helix Consortium. Perhaps you have heard of us. Had heard of them. Everyone had. The Helix Consortium was one of the largest corporations in the galaxy. They controlled shipping routes, owned mining operations, and had more money than some entire species. What do you want? Asked. Direct, I appreciate that. Director walked around the bridge, examining the hybrid construction with obvious interest. "We have been watching your project with great admiration. What you have accomplished here is remarkable. Human engineering merged with alien technology. Revolutionary." "Thank you. Now tell me what you want." Director turned to face her. "We want to buy your ship. We are prepared to offer you 50 million credits, enough to live comfortably for the rest of your life, enough for your entire crew to retire." The number was staggering. Could feel Ho and Jinwoo staring at her from across the room. 50 million credits was more money than most humans would ever see. "No," said. Director's smile flickered. "Perhaps you did not hear the number correctly." "I heard it. The ship is not for sale." "Miss Park, let me be clear about your situation." Director pulled out a tablet and displayed a series of documents. "Your uncle had significant debts when he died, debts to the Helix Consortium. According to Galactic inheritance law, those debts transfer to whoever claims his property." Felt cold. What debts? Uncle never mentioned any debts. "Cargo loans, repair advances, operating costs. It adds up over 200 years. Director showed her the total. It was almost double the original disposal fee. "You have 30 days to pay this amount. If you cannot, the ship will be seized as payment." "These documents are fake," said. "Uncle would never have owed money to people like you." "Fake," Director laughed. "These are official records filed with the Galactic Commerce Authority. They are completely legitimate. If you want to challenge them, you are welcome to hire lawyers. But legal battles take years and you have 30 days. He walked toward the door, his bodyguards following. "Think about our offer, Miss Park. 50 million credits and all these problems go away, or you can fight us and lose everything. The choice is yours." He left, stood frozen on the bridge, staring at the documents still displayed on the main screen. "This is wrong," Ho said. "Uncle hated corporations. He would never have taken loans from the consortium." "It does not matter what we know," Jinwoo said quietly. "It matters what we can prove." They spent the next week searching for evidence, dug through every financial record she could find. Boram contacted lawyers who might help, but the consortium's documents were perfect. Too perfect. Every signature, every date, every transaction looked completely real. A journalist named Bai Song came to the ship after hearing about the dispute. She was young and fierce, with a small camera drone that followed her everywhere. "The consortium does this constantly," Bai said. "They target small operations, file false claims, and take what they want. No one can stop them because no one can prove they are lying." "How do they create such perfect fake documents?" asked. "They have technology that can forge anything, but the forgery systems leave traces in the data itself. If you could access their internal servers, you could prove the documents are fake." "And how do we access servers belonging to the largest corporation in the galaxy?" Bai smiled grimly. "You do not, that is why they always win." But was not ready to give up. She spent 3 days without sleep, tracing the digital signatures on the fake documents. When she finally called everyone to the bridge, she looked exhausted but triumphant. "I found something," said. "The documents were created using a specific consortium system. The system has a flaw. Every document it creates contains a hidden timestamp showing when it was actually made." "Can you extract it?" asked. "Remotely? No. But if someone could physically access a consortium terminal, they could pull the original file data. That would show these documents were created 3 months ago, not 20 years ago." "Physical access to consortium systems is impossible," Jinwoo said. "Their security is legendary." "Not completely impossible," said. "There is a consortium office on the station. Small, mostly automated. If someone could get inside during off hours." "That is corporate espionage," Boram said. "If we get caught, we go to prison, maybe worse." Looked at her crew. They had all given up so much for this ship, for her dream. She could not ask them to risk their freedom too. "There might be another way," she said slowly. "What if we do not need to prove the documents are fake? What if we just need to make them irrelevant?" How Ho asked. "The Galactic Union protects ships that have cultural or historical significance. If we can prove the Wandering Leaf is important, actually important to the galaxy, then no corporation can seize it." "And how do we prove that?" Looked at the navigation core readings on her screen. They had been testing it for weeks. The ancient system was online, integrated with their human interfaces. It worked. They just had not tried using it for real. "We fly into a dead zone," said. "We become the first ship in over 100 years to navigate where no modern vessel can go. That makes us historically significant. That gives us protection." "The ship is not ready," Jinwoo said. "We have another month of work at least." "Then we do what we can in 30 days. They worked around the clock. Bai broadcast their story to the galaxy, showing the human crew racing against impossible odds. Support poured in. More donations. More volunteers. People arrived at the dock offering to help with whatever they could. On day 28, disaster struck. Was sleeping in the captain's chair when alarms woke her. Smoke filled the engineering section. Ho was already there, fighting flames with an extinguisher. "The main engine," he shouted. "Someone sabotaged it. The fuel lines were cut." They saved the ship, but the damage was severe. One of their 2 engines was destroyed. Replacement parts would take weeks to arrive. "It was the consortium," Jinwoo said, examining the cut lines. "They knew we were close. They could not let us succeed." Sat on the floor of the engineering section, covered in soot and sweat. 2 days left. 1 working engine. Half their system still untested. Commander Sala arrived an hour later. She looked at the damage and shook her head. "You cannot fly with 1 engine," she said. "Not into a dead zone. The gravitational stresses will tear you apart." "So we fail," said. "The consortium wins." Commander Sala was quiet for a moment. "I offered you military funding once. You refused because you wanted to help everyone. I respected that." She paused. "I cannot give you official help, but I can tell you that they designed these ships to be resilient. They flew with damaged engines all the time. Their pilots just had to be creative." She left without explaining further, but understood. She gathered her crew one more time. "We launch in 2 days," she said. "With 1 engine and half-finished systems and no guarantee we will survive. Anyone who wants to leave, I understand. No judgment." No one moved. "Then let us finish what we started," said. "We show the galaxy what humans can do." They had 2 days. It would have to be enough. The Wandering Leaf launched at midnight when most of the station was sleeping. Sat in the captain's chair, her hands gripping the armrests, her heart pounding in her chest. "All stations report," she said. "Navigation online," called from her console. "Ancient core is synchronized with human interfaces. It is ready." "Engineering stable," Ho said through the speaker. "1 engine running at 80%. It is not pretty, but it will hold." "Life support optimal," Jinwoo reported. "All systems green." "We have enough fuel for the journey and return," Boram added. "Barely." Looked at the main screen. Dead Zone 7 was their target, the largest unexplored region in known space. It was 3 hours away at normal speed. 3 hours before the consortium realized what they were doing. "Take us out," said. The ship shuddered as it pulled away from the dock. The single engine pushed them forward, slower than would have liked but steady. They passed through the station's outer markers and entered open space. For 1 hour, everything was quiet. Then the sensors screamed with warnings. "3 ships approaching from behind," said. "Consortium vessels, they are fast." Saw them on the screen. Sleek, modern ships with weapons already powered. Director's voice came through the communication system. "Miss Park, this is your final warning. Return to the station immediately." If you continue, we will be forced to disable your ship. Switched off the communication channel. How long until they catch us? She asked. 20 minutes, said, maybe less. How long until we reach the dead zone? 40 minutes. 20 minutes short. It was impossible, but had stopped believing in impossible months ago. Ho, can you give me more speed? I can try, but if I push the engine too hard, it might explode. Try anyway. The ship groaned as Ho pushed the engine beyond its limits. They gained speed, but not enough. The consortium ships were still closing. Warning shots incoming, Jinwoo said. Energy blasts streaked past the wandering leaf, close enough to shake the hull. Director was not bluffing. He would destroy them rather than let them succeed. 10 minutes to intercept, said. We are not going to make it. Stared at the screen, thinking desperately. The ancient core glowed on her console, ready and waiting. She remembered what Commander Sala had said about pilots being creative. Can the navigation core calculate a route from here, while we are still outside the dead zone? Maybe, but the calculations would be rough. We could end up anywhere. Do it. Start the calculations now. Fingers flew across her console. The ancient core hummed louder, its symbols brightening. On the screen, saw a path appearing, a route through the invisible maze of the dead zone. I have a partial route, said, but we are still 5 minutes from the boundary. The consortium ships were right behind them now. The next shots would not be warnings. Then we jump early, said. Everyone stared at her. Jump early, Jinwoo said. That is insane. The core is designed to work inside the dead zone. Outside, the calculations could be completely wrong. They flew these ships for centuries. They must have done emergency entries before. The core will adjust. Or it will kill us. Looked around at her crew. Ho, who had followed her across the galaxy on nothing but trust, who had decoded impossible technology from her apartment on Earth. Jinwoo, who had risked everything to help strangers. Boram, who had stayed when she could have walked away. I trust this ship, said. I trust my uncle and I trust us. We jump on my mark. The consortium ships opened fire with real weapons now. The wandering leaf shook as shields absorbed the impacts. Shields at 60%, Jinwoo said. 50%, they are tearing us apart. Navigation core fully active, shouted. Route calculated. It is rough, but it is something. Jump commanded. The ancient core blazed with light. Reality twisted around them. For one terrible moment, felt like she was everywhere and nowhere at once. Then everything went calm. The main screen showed darkness. Not the darkness of normal space, but something deeper. The stars were gone, hidden behind walls of radiation and gravity that blinded every modern sensor. We are inside, whispered. Dead Zone 7, we made it. Behind them, the consortium ships had stopped at the boundary. They could not follow. Their modern systems were completely blind. Ho laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. Jinwoo slumped in his chair. Boram was crying. The navigation core is working perfectly, said, wonder in her voice. It is guiding us through. I can see the path clearly. Let herself breathe. They had done it. The impossible ship had done the impossible thing. But they were not finished yet. Follow the core's guidance, said. Let us see what is hidden in here. For 2 hours, they flew through the dead zone. The ancient core led them past invisible hazards and through corridors of calm space. Watched the readings with growing amazement. Then they found it. A planet, small, rocky, with lights visible on the surface. That is a colony, Jinwoo said. Someone lives there. They were hailed as they approached. The signal was old, the language archaic, but translation programs managed. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. This is Refuge Colony. We have been isolated for 150 years. Felt tears in her eyes. Uncle had been right. There were people in here. lost colonists forgotten by the galaxy, surviving alone in the dark. "This is the Wandering Leaf," replied. "We are here to bring you home." The colonists had records, detailed records of their history, including communications with ships that had visited before the dead zones became impassable. Among those records were documents showing that the Helix Consortium had known about the colonies all along. They had deliberately hidden the navigation data. They had let thousands of people remain lost because it was convenient. Everything. When they emerged from Dead Zone 7 3 days later, Bai was waiting with cameras ready. She broadcasts findings across the entire galaxy. The consortium's crimes were exposed for everyone to see. The reaction was immediate. The Galactic Union launched investigations. Director was arrested. The fake debt documents were exposed as forgeries, just as had suspected. Commander Sala visited the ship one more time. "You did something remarkable," she said. "Not just the flight, the choice. You could have kept this secret, used it for yourself. Instead, you shared it with everyone." "That was always the plan," said. "This technology belongs to the galaxy, not to corporations, not to militaries, to everyone." The Wandering Leaf was declared a ship of historical significance, protected by Union law forever. Received hundreds of requests from other species wanting to learn human engineering techniques. They wanted to know how to build hybrid ships, how to combine old and new, how to do the impossible. Said yes to all of them. On the last night before they began training, the first wave of students stood alone on the bridge. The ship hummed around her, alive and strong. Through the windows, she could see Station Morrow and the endless stars beyond. "We did it, Uncle," she said quietly. "We made something wonderful." The navigation corps glowed softly in response, smiled and sat down in the captain's chair. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems, new impossible things to solve. But tonight, she was just a human who had inherited a broken ship and refused to give up. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for 40 years. They had seen humans as primitive, limited, too young to matter. They were wrong. And Park had proven it.